Can you arrest a FBI agent?
Yes. Recently, just this week, they're finishing up the audit in Arizona, and I think they have one more table to go, forensic, but they have 60 tables of forensic tables to go, and that's where they have four people looking at each of the ballots. But the actual scanning of the ballots is almost done. They have one more pallet to go, one more. I think they have like 19 tables of the scanning, and there are 60 tables of the forensic table. But they're getting to the finishing the scanning, and of course they're looking for four things. They're looking for an accurate fold in the ballot. They're looking for fake ballots. They're looking for machine printed ballots, and they're looking for like Xerox ballots, anything out of the ordinary. Well, just this week, the Attorney General, Biden's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, made a threat to the to the auditors in Arizona. Do you have a little clip of that?
I have a clip. I don't know if it's the one that you want, but let's see it's something going on with the internet right now. I'm definitely getting slow.
I could just go on that. Anyway,
Here.
To curb voter access, where we see violations, we will not hesitate to act. We are also scrutinizing current laws and practices in order to determine whether they discriminate against Black voters and other voters of color.
I'm not sure if that's the piece you wanted, but
that's good
he
enough.
he was talking about a little bit of that.
So basically, the AG comes out and makes this statement threatening Arizona, and there was a attorney, Matthew DePerno, who's DePerno, I think I got it right, who is saying that there's been a leak that's saying that Garland is either going to shut down the audit and seize all the material, or let it go. There's a decision now trying to be made in the AG's office now. So it has had an effect. The head of the Arizona Senate, Miss Karen Fawn, has backed off to a degree, saying that they had plans to visit the voter homes to investigate like voter registrations that didn't make any sense. And so, for example, they were probably going to get one theory on how they did it is that there's always a street list, and the street list will go with four different categories, and in one set of categories there'll be like votes every they'll get like a 4, and there'll be votes every week, every election. Then there'll be another 3 and a 2 and a 1, to the point like the 1 is voted one time 3 decades ago. And so one question would be why did this person vote? So they could actually send somebody out and see if did you vote. Another thing would be like if you have a rural home and you have 100 or 250 votes from there, and they're all one of these machine copies, meaning they can tell a machine copy, whereas if somebody scribbles in one vote and they put it on copy, and the machine kicks out 250, a Xerox machine kicks out 250 of them, and they're all exactly the same. So the Senate president has backed off to saying, well, we're not going to send anybody out. Another Arizona state legislature, State Senator Wendy Rogers from the 6th district said, yeah, that's all fine for him to go do it, to go do that, and he can do that. He can go interfere in the Arizona audit, and he can do that, and he'll see the inside of the Arizona jail. And so it brings up a good question: can you arrest the FBI agents and DOJ agents and the Attorney General when they decide to go in to the Coliseum in Arizona and stop the audit? Can you arrest them? And the answer is, of course you can. They have zero authority. They have zero jurisdiction to interfere in the state legislature's audit of a vote. The Constitution is very clear. The power, and we call it a divided government. And we usually just refer to the executive, to the judiciary, and the legislature. We seem to forget the biggest division in the Constitution, which is the federal/state division. And that part of the division of the Constitution gives all of the election power, all of it, to the individual state legislatures. And the state legislatures doing now, who would stop an audit anyway? Who would stop somebody finding out if the ballots are legal and good ballots? Only a criminal would want to stop that to begin with. But it actually comes up in one of my favorite topics is, can you arrest a federal agent? Of course you can, because it came up in one of my favorite anti-constitutional cases, Gonzalez versus Race. I don't think I've talked about it before, but this is the case. In about 1996, and California passed a compassionate use law, saying that if you exhausted all the other medicine, you can use marijuana as you went you were under doctor's care, you got a prescription, and you could use marijuana. Well, anyway, in 1996, I think her name was Angela Reyes. Poor lady had something like tried 30 different drugs. They all made her vomit she had like a ton of different things wrong with her. And she her doctor tried to sworn to 30 drugs did not work. Marijuana was the only thing that she could keep down that would not have her vomit. And so she got a prescription for it. And she had 6 plants. And one day, 2 rows of black SUVs showed up, stopped, got out, knocked on the door, had a warrant. So they come in, both the California Patrol, State Patrol, and the CHIPS and the feds came in, and at that point the CHIP officer said, "Ma'am, do you have here's a warrant for the 6 marijuana plants?" She goes, "Well, wait a minute, I have a doctor's prescription and my permit from the government and the dispensary, and these are all bought from the dispensary." She showed the CHIP officer all that, and the CHIP officer says, "Okay, nothing here, nothing wrong here. Our job is done," and goes to leave. At which point the feds go, "Oh no, we're going to arrest her." At which point there was a Mexican standoff, and the state officers were ready to draw guns on the Fed officers. Now, unfortunately, they kicked it up to Washington. They immediately called Washington, and eventually the CHIP stood down. But they would have been completely within their rights to wait to see what these federal officers did. And the moment they try to do anything, arrest them at gunpoint and put them in a jail, because state law and that state criminal law trumps whatever fake federal law that they were in. The federal jury, the federal officers were there pretending to enforce. Now, interestingly enough, this kicked off the case of Gonzalez versus Reyes. It's one of those cases where it shows that Scalia was not a conservative. He was pretending to be a conservative, and the only true conservative on the court is Justice Thomas. And in it, what was issue was an earlier case in Filburn. Filburn was a Depression era case where FDR was expanding ridiculously the powers of the federal government with no authority. And Mr. Filburn was a farmer. I think he was growing corn. And the way FDR was doing it was on the basis of the Commerce Clause. And this was a Supreme Court decision, Filburn, on it. And basically what it was Mr. Filburn was just growing corn and stuff for himself. He just wanted to be left alone. He didn't want anybody to bother him, and he wasn't doing he was not entering into any interstate commerce or any commerce to begin with at all. And what they did in this case is to regulate, of course, all commerce and to outrageously expand the powers of the federal government. They had the argument was in Filburn was, well, even though he wasn't selling any of the corn, the mere fact that he wasn't selling any corn but was using it for himself impacted interstate commerce. Now that's a ridiculous and nonsense. That's complete nonsense. But that's what they went with. Now, the actual law on it, pointed out, I think, by Thomas in this case. No, I don't know if Thomas figured it out, but the actual constitutional law on it is real simple. The founding fathers knew what agriculture was. They knew where they had a word for it. They knew what industry was, industrialization was. They had words for it, and they also knew what commerce was. Commerce to them was what we would call high-end securities. In law school, there's a whole class on high-end securities exchange and securities. I don't even know what the hell it is. I think it's like contracts between banks and financial instruments and stuff like that. I don't know what it is. There's a test on a bar to test it. There's 6 months you can be in, but it's the high end of securities. It has nothing to do with what we would call commerce. Commerce is regular free market stuff. The founding fathers deliberately extracted it out, number one, so there wouldn't be any problem with slavery, but also because they didn't want an overpowering federal government, and they want all those local things in control of the states. And if you take the word state out and replace local, you see the true genius of the federal system, because it's the federal system and then local control. And so this is one of the areas, agricultural, industry, and regular commerce, that the founding fathers had delegated to the states. Now, Thomas had made the point in this. He said, well, wait a minute. If we take the federal government's position and Phil Burns and Raish's position to be what it is, here's what it is. We could say this. Well, prostitution is a crime. Prostitution is no good. The federal government has an interest in controlling prostitution. Women and men have marital relationships. They have sex when they're married. When a person has in a bedroom has sex with their married partner, that affects the commerce of prostitution in the same way that corn affected the commerce for Mr. Filborn, in the sense that now it is being kept only in the house. Therefore, under the rationale of good old Scalia and the feds in Raich and the federal government, just like you could regulate corn and everything to do with commerce, now under this reasoning you can regulate sex in the bedroom between married couple, and that's the nonsense of where the federal government is today, and actually the current Supreme Court decision, because of course Thomas was in the minority in that, and he was writing a dissent in Raich, and so. It brings up that great point of this, and I believe that Representative Rogers, who happens to be a 20-year veteran from the Air Force, as she flew, I think, C-130s for it, is absolutely right. And so, will a shooting war begin in Arizona over the ballots? I'm hoping not, but every Arizona official, moment when some clown shows up from the federal government deciding that they want to stop an audit or seize something, go, whoa, they are fully entitled to exercise their rights to protect those ballots under Arizona law. There is no jurisdiction that the federal government has to interfere in that audit. So the question being, can you arrest an FBI agent? Of course you can. Not only that, it's your duty. If you swore an oath, it's your absolute duty to arrest that to FBI agent or DOJ agent for that. Now, ultimately, why would the Attorney General stop this? Actually, there is in the criminal law called a category called inchoate crimes. Your conspiracies fall in here. You're helping criminals get away. Fall in there, like if you hide a criminal, fall in there, and when you assist somebody covering up a crime, it falls in there, and when you assist somebody getting away, it falls in there. So actually, at this moment, you can make an argument that the only person who would stop an audit is somebody who knows up in their mind that that there's a reason why the audit is bad, and they want to stop it to prevent the fraudulent and the people who've committed actual crimes get away. So the Attorney General, good old Merrick Garland, better watch out, because what he's doing really is stopping when he's committing an inchoate crime, a crime of thought, a criminal act, in that he is helping the criminals who, if there are any, we don't know yet because we don't know results yet, get away with election fraud. So he's actually committing a crime that should get him locked up. If there was any justice in any one of these states, say Pennsylvania decides to have their forensic audit, say Georgia decides they want to have forensic audit of Fulton County, where we saw it on video. stealing the election. Any one of these people have a right to stop the interference from the federal government, from any agent, from that. Why? It's what are you so scared of? The reason why they're scared is because they know that something is wrong. Let it out. I don't know if something is wrong. I think something is wrong, but I don't know. Let the evidence come out. Let's see the ballots. And if there are thousands and thousands and thousands of Xerox ballots in there, then there's a big problem. Somebody needs to go to jail for that, because that's a fraud. That's interference with an election. And for all the Russia we heard, and the crying over election fraud in 2016, to this day Hillary's propagating that. You would think that the left would have it all high on their agenda to keep the elections secure. So apparently it doesn't. It's just another episode of Tubin election integrity. Just like we have Tubin news and Tubin to keep the elections secure. So apparently it doesn't. It's just another episode of Tubin election. So that's the answer to the question. But some people, if there is any fraud, I don't know yet. The evidence isn't in yet. We got to wait till the evidence comes in. But if there is any evidence of election fraud, those people need to go to jail. And especially any officials who are trying to cover up the fact after the fact. And that's the answer to the question. Can you arrest a FBI agent? Of course you can, just like anybody else. All right.